Okay, so we are continuing tonight with another installment of Rabbi Nachman's wisdom. We're learning the Holy Sefer called Sichot Haran, and tonight it's a special day. It's before Rosh Hashanah, so I think Hashem worked it out that this is a Rosh Hashanah themed kind of teaching. And tonight's actually a very special day in the Hebrew calendar because tonight is Chav Hei Elul, and Chav Hei Elul, yesterday was Chav Daled Elul, which somebody pointed out is the anniversary of the destruction of Nasrallah. So Baruch Hashem, it's a happy day, and today's Chav Hei Elul. Chav Hei Elul is actually the first day of creation, because like in a certain sense, if the sixth day of creation, where Adam and Eve was created, was Aleph Tishrei, so really day one of Yehi is actually tonight. Okay, so tonight is the real beginning of Let There Be Light, and the truth is that's actually very much the theme of tonight's teaching, because the Bereshit of the creation. When it says Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz, so the Targum Onkelos says that it says B'chochmata bara Elokim, that the beginning of creation was actually the thought, was actually the wisdom, the thought process of Hashem, the intellect of Hashem. And this is really what tonight's lesson is all about, which of course we're going to explain how this is connected to Rosh Hashanah. That Rabbi Nachman says, Tzarich lishmor et hamachshava ma'od. A person has to guard his thoughts very much. Ki mimachshava yachal liot naseh davar chiyuni mamish. Because from a thought can come something very actual. It becomes a reality, that your thoughts create realities, and therefore, because your thoughts create realities, so it's critical to guard your thoughts very much. And he explains, Vida, that we have many things, we have many abilities as a human being, and the higher something is, the more powerful it is. So he explains, it's like step by step. L'mashal, im harega yicholim lahashdech ez davar lemala, aval im hayad yicholim lahashdech lemala yeser. That you can kick something with your foot, you can get something to elevate, but you can throw something higher than you can with your foot. You can throw with your hand higher than you can get something with your foot. I wasn't sure about this because, as soccer players, they kicked something like things like very, very high, but I googled it. It's true. It's true. You can that it's actually like I would have just done it myself, but I don't think I'm too great at either of them, so I don't think I'm the best. I'm the best evidence of anything. But it's actually true. It's actually true that you can throw something higher than you can kick something, and he says that you know why? Because the hands are in a higher level than the feet. So he doesn't just mean that that in terms of vertically that they're in a higher place. He means that a person's feet is less refined than a person's hands. You do more basic things, more crass things with your feet than you do with your hands. Your hands are more refined. Your hands you do fine motor things. I once saw a guy that they said Rahman Stani, he didn't have hands. And he learned how to play guitar with his feet. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. But that's an amazing feat, right? It's amazing. It's amazing a thing to be able to. Usually, your feet aren't so agile. Your feet aren't so good at fine motor, and you can do more amazing things. You can write with your hands. You can do more refined things with your hands, and because your hands are on a higher spiritual level, so therefore, the things that your hands do gets to a further place. It gets out there more in the world. He says, and he continues, and what can I do? What goes further? Would I throw or my speech? So my speech gets further. And this is even before they had microphones, even before they had telephones. That just if I shout, I can shout, and my voice will get further than I could have thrown something. Okay, so why is that? Because obviously our power of speech is in a much higher place spiritually than our power of our hands. So because it's on a higher place spiritually, so it follows that it can get to a farther radius. And he continues, Vashmiya hikavaya yeser. Okay, this is every step here is awesome. That hearing is higher spiritually than talking. Now it says in Pirkei Avos that if every word is worth 1 shekel, so silence is worth 2 shekels. Okay, it means that the hearing whenever you can choose between talking or listening, so you're always better off if you're going to be a listener. Okay, and the reason is very simple, because when you're talking, so you are where you are. You're existing in the plane in which you exist. When you're listening, so you're receiving. You're receiving something from someplace higher, hopefully. You could also be receiving from someplace lower. But if you're receiving from the right places, if you're listening to the right people, so then, if you're listening to the right podcasts, then you're actually being affected by something higher than you, by something bigger than you. And so the power of speech is actually a bigger power. The power of hearing is a higher power than the power of speech. Okay, it's very, very amazing. So the ability, our ability to hear is higher than our ability to speak, and because it's a higher power, because it's a higher sense. So he says that's why you can hear from further than you can speak. Right, meaning that like my power to scream, so you can hear me from however many meters away. You can hear me, but I can hear something that wasn't made by a human being. I can hear a bomb from way further than I can scream, right? Because my power of sound, my power of hearing, is a stronger power than and so that because the power of hearing is a higher spiritual power, therefore it works for a longer distance. Okay, so now he continues. And the power of sight is even greater than the power of hearing. So we said that when you're hearing, so you're listening to something. But when I'm actually seeing something, so then I'm connecting to it in an even deeper way than when I'm hearing it. Okay, this is something that we all understand, that the connection that we have to something visually is much deeper than the connection that we have to something in the audio, and because the sense of sight is something which is on a higher spiritual realm. That's why, by the way, it says that ani chashuv, that it says that a summa is chashuv kemes, a person that like they can't see. So it's like he's dead. Like a person doesn't have the ability to see. So it's like that their ability to experience the world is like in a very different place. And so you can see even further than you can hear. He says, you can look to the heavens. With your eyes, you can look to the heavens. So your eyes are even higher. Your eyes are even higher than your ability to see is even bigger than your ability to hear. That's because your ability to see is in a higher spiritual level than your ability to hear. And thought is even greater than that. Thought is obviously on a spiritual level, so your thought is a higher spiritual plane than your ability to see, your ability to hear, your ability to speak. So if your thoughts are on a spiritual level higher than everything else, so then think about what the effect of a thought is. Think about what it must be, that every time you have a thought, so it's making a difference in the world, it's actually having an actual, real effect on what's going on. And so that's why a person has to really guard his thoughts very much. So what does it mean? This is the Torah, that's the end of Mem Vav. And so what does it mean? Rabbi Nachman is telling us that we need to guard our thoughts. So this is Rabbi Nachman is the first one to talk about mental health. Okay, that our thoughts, that what's going on inside my head, it makes a difference. We shouldn't just say, it's just your thoughts. So Rabbi Nachman was very aware that what's going on in my head is actually a real thing. It's something that I need to deal with. It's something that I need to take medicine if I need to, go to a doctor if I need to, and it's a real thing. That the mental health is actually a real thing. Now, we've seen this idea before. We've seen this idea before in the Sefer Sichot Haran. We gave a class about this. That the Rebbe says in Sichot Ches, in Torah Ches, Kishalem Milad Parnusa, so En Ayin Shem Harbe. That he says that a person, it could be we even learned this right before Tisha B'Av, that it says that when you're learning bad things, when you're learning bad topics about death, topics about negative realities, so don't spend too much time there. Don't go in too much depth. Don't analyze it too much, because it's actually spiritually dangerous to have your thoughts going into these negative places, because every thought is a reality. So the more that you're thinking about negative things, so the more you're giving reality to negative energies. And so we said that this is based on the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov said that you are where your thoughts are. The person actually is, his actual life experience is in their thoughts. And so when I'm thinking in a good place, I am in a good place. When I'm thinking in a bad place, I actually am in a bad place. And the person needs to make sure that because they actually are, because their life experience is in the place where the thoughts are. So that's why it's so critical to make sure that you're only thinking about good things. Then you're not thinking about bad things. That's why. That's when it comes to things that you need to do. Sometimes you need to think about bad things. Sometimes you need to be dealing with somebody who's dying, somebody's and somebody's sick, or to think about what do I do with this situation? Somebody's they're having these horrible thoughts and sinning but it should be you do what you need to do and you get out. Okay? In fact, somebody said before Yom Kippur, it says in the Gemara this about sin. It says that it's not exactly the same thing. It says in the Gemara that kasher hira avera me'avera. The Gemara says in Yuma that thinking about a sin is worse than doing a sin. And so the commentaries explain that when you're thinking about a sin, so you're involving your brain, and your brain is connected to your soul. So your soul is sinning when you're thinking about a sin. When you're doing a sin, that's just your body. So it's less critical, it's less horrible to do a sin than to think about a sin. So there's something that somebody once was talking to a rabbi before Yom Kippur that he did something really horrible, and he it was really bogging him down. And so his rabbi told him that I command you cannot think about this sin. Just go through the whole Yom Kippur as if it didn't happen, and just completely ignore it. And at the end of Yom Kippur, he says, are you sure? It's almost the end. So he says, okay, fine. One time in the Ilah, you can think about it once. When you're saying Hashem, you can think about the sin once, and that's it. And then forget about it. And the reason is because the more a person can go into Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah is supposed to be a day of renewal, but a person can go into Yom Kippur and be just bogged down in all of his dirt and all of his schmutz and all of his negativities, and it can bring him down. And it's so the opposite of what Yom Kippur is supposed to be. The person is going to be thinking about, is going to be in his sins. It's going to mamish take him down, and this is why a person has to be, as part of what Rabbi Nachman is saying when he says that the person has to guard his thoughts. The person has to mamish be aware of the fact that I'm not free to think about whatever I want. I'm not free to allow my things, it's just my thoughts, it's me. A person has to take control over their thoughts. Now, Rabbi Nachman talks about this in a couple of other places. He has a very fascinating teaching that, if anybody has heard of the law of attraction, so he says something that's very rings of the echoes of that idea. He writes, that a person has amazing powers. A person can cause things to happen based on their thoughts. Even inflation, even the things that happen in the world, it's based on thoughts. If a person will think completely about something, his thoughts will be completely entangled with this idea. That your inner thought and your outer thought and all the different elements of your thought. If a person is able to be completely engrossed, completely obsessed, completely taken over by a particular thought, without any kind of distraction to any other thought, through their thoughts, they're able to accomplish that thing will happen. Exactly the way they thought. Now, I'm not sure how to take this. Like whenever I heard of law of attraction, certainly when I saw this, so I thought to myself, what's behechrach? It has to happen. Like how could it possibly be that it has to happen? Like Hashem is in charge. Like Hashem is the boss. So like the thing that I didn't like about when we talk about law of attraction, when we talk about manifestation, so is this idea that a person is the boss. A person can do what he wants. You want to be rich, just think about riches and you'll be rich. A person just think something and it'll be like the way I say things that's sort of avodah zarah. Because the difference between Emunah and Hashem and Avodah Zarah is that in Avodah Zarah, so a person is the master of the gods. In Avodah Zarah, so if I want rain, so I do a rain dance, and if it doesn't work, then I just do it again. I must have done something wrong. There's no such thing as I did the rain dance and the rain didn't come. Like that's what's so good. That's what's so handy about Avodah Zarah, that it never fails. Whereas Hashem, so sometimes Hashem says no. Sometimes Hashem knows better than us, and sometimes Hashem isn't going to allow us to just manipulate reality because He actually loves us, and He actually is. He has the veto power to make sure that everything's going to be the way He wants, and that's mamish what Rosh Hashanah is all about. That we're telling Hashem, like, we know that you know better than us. We know that you know what you're doing, and we want you to express your will and express your presence. That we want the world to be according to your will. We don't want it to be according to all of our crazy thoughts. And like this submission to Hashem's will is so the essence of Rosh Hashanah. And so that's why when he says behechrach yeh kacha, I would like to believe that he doesn't mean that it will definitely be that, because I don't think that fits with everything else that we know about Judaism. And what he means is that it's like attraction, like that when a person can make a big difference as to actualizing that thought. Of course, if Hashem doesn't want it to happen, it's never going to happen. But a person's thoughts make a difference. Okay, that's what I think. What I think he is saying. He says the similar idea in the Kutei Moharan. He says in Kuf Tzadok Gimel. Over here he takes this to the place of being rich. Maybe it's not Tinyanat. Yes, in the first chelik. Dasha machshava yesh latoika godo imichaz v'gav achshav talei zadav shba'olam yuchalifo sheyakach. Filu imichazik pashat u'mashiach lo mammon. If a person wants to be rich, abundance, what do they call it? Abundance mentality. That's the person has the abundance mentality. If you want to be rich, bevadi yelai, so then you'll certainly become rich. V'chein v'chol davar rak shemachshava yet bitul kol ha'geishos. Over here in Sichot Haran, by us, it says his point is that you need to be completely focused on something. Over here he says a different knesh, that over here he says that the machshava needs to be bebitul kol ha'geishos. You need to come to a place of concentration that you are elevated higher than your emotions. That meaning a person needs to reach a state of deep thought, a state of meditation, that you're no longer aware of your surroundings. That's the level of thought that is required in order to actualize, in order to make that your thoughts are going to be a reality. And then he brings this to a different place, that a person is able to be meiser nefesh b'machshava. Then he says when a person says Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, so it says you're supposed to have kavanah to be meiser nefesh. You're supposed to have an intention that if I would be called upon, I would be happy to give up my life to Hashem. So then he talks about that a person can actually give up his life, and you could feel the pain of dying. I'm not sure what he means, the pain of dying, because it says when you're dying al Kadosh Hashem, you don't feel pain, but a person can actually experience the physical experience of dying through his thoughts, and this is the reality that a thought is able to make. So this is the reality. This is the reality that the thoughts have, and this is why Rabbi Nachman says the person that a person has to guard his thoughts. Okay, so I think that implicit in what Rabbi Nachman is saying is that a person can never think that it's just my thoughts. It's just like, what's the big deal? I didn't do it. I just thought it. You know. So Rabbi Nachman is saying that's not a statement. That doesn't make any sense because it's just a thought. A thought is even, in a certain sense, even greater than an action. Okay, so a person should never think it's just a thought. And so the way I understand this is that there's a world of thought. And what I mean that there's a world of thought. I got this term from a book I saw once. To be honest, I don't know what the book meant in his terms, but I saw this word olam hamachshava, and like the name stuck with me, like the words stuck with me. Olam hamachshava. There's a world of thought, and I thought to myself that there's a physical world, and in the physical world is the world like that. There's a table here, and like in the physical world, so like I can't go through the table, and when there's a physical world that like the water spills and it makes a big mess, and there's a world just like there's a physical world. There's a world of emotions. And so emotions is not a physical thing. Emotions is something that you can't see love or hate under a microscope, and yet anybody who's experienced it knows that it's real. Like it's something. There's a world of love, and a person can be tuned into the world of love. A person you can feel not only you can feel when you love somebody else, you can feel when somebody loves you, and so then there's this world this connection, this dialogue that's going on in the world of emotions that a person who's just looking with a microscope, a person who's going with a biological take on life. So then, oh come on, you believe in that stuff? And like this is really part of like if you're talking to like a diehard atheist, a person who's like I only believe in what I can prove scientifically. So like ask him about emotions. Ask him about like do you believe in love? I mean, it sounds like a good song. It's a reality that can't be seen under a microscope. So that you can't claim that just because you can't see it under a microscope that there aren't any, that it doesn't exist. So just like there's a world of emotions, so there's a world of thought. And just like the emotions is something real, and it affects us, so thoughts are something real, and it affects us. That anybody here, has that ever happened to you that you're about to call somebody, and just as like right before you press call, like they call you. No, you ever had this? No, it's really freaky, right? So like, it happened to me numerous times, and it happened to be like with people that I haven't spoken to in 2 years. That it was a damage and I really believe that the reason why it happens is because somehow I don't know who started it, I don't know who thought first, but when one of us thought about the other one, they felt it, and they didn't know. Oh, Kilstein's thinking about you. So, but the thought, oh, Kilstein, and so hey, I should call him, and the reason why he had the thought to call me is because he felt the fact that I was thinking about him. And this is what it means, like in the world of thought, when you think about somebody, so it's like you're tapping them on the shoulder. It's like it's a real thing. A thought is a reality, and like Rabbi Nachman says, it goes so far. It goes even further than sight, which is even further than which even further than hearing, which is even further than speaking. It's the furthest effect that a person can have is their thoughts. So when a person thinks something, it's actually a reality. So. We're coming up to Rosh Hashanah, right? And Rosh means head, and your head is your thoughts, right? So when we're talking about Rosh Hashanah, so we're talking about beginnings, and so it says in Chazal that Kol Hatchalat Kashot, that all beginnings are hard. And so Rabbi Nachman says, why is all beginnings hard? All beginnings are hard because in the beginning, lies the essence of everything that's going to be afterwards. The end is actually in the beginning. So what is the beginning of everything? The beginning is the thought. And there's the famous line, we say this in the Chadaydi, Sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila. What's it mean? Sof ma'aseh, that the last thing which is going to be done, even the finishing touches, again, the details of exactly the precision of how something is going to be at the very end, so b'machshava tchila, they were thought about first. So that's why on a simple level, like when it says Sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila, so in L'chadaydi we're talking about Shabbos, but on a simple level we're talking about people. That when Hashem thought that like, hey, let's make a world. So you know what he was thinking about? He wasn't thinking about Starbucks. He wasn't thinking about Air Jordans. He wasn't. What was his thinking? What was his thinking? What would he want? Why do you want a world? His whole thought was for man. He was thinking that the Medrash says he was thinking about machshavtan sheyisrael shekaram lakol. That his the first thought in all of creation was, I want to have a Jewish people. I want to have this relationship with them, and that everything else that he made. When he was making the Alps, when he was making the Grand Canyon, when he was making shawarma, when it was everything, it was all a subcategory. It was a subcategory of the fact that through this whole reality, so I'm going to have a relationship with Klal Yisrael. It's all everything, that the very first thought of everything was the thought of Klal Yisrael, and that's why Klal Yisrael was last. And that's why Adam and Chava, they were the last part of creation, because they were the main point. So the first thought is the blueprint of everything that's going to exist, because when you're doing something, so you always have to have your mind, and what's the goal? So whatever the goal is, so everything else is going to be an envelope. It's going to be a packaging for that thing. So Rosh Hashanah is the Bereshit B'Chochmasa. The Rosh Hashanah is a day of thought. It's a day of planning. There's a famous midrash that says that LeDavid Hashem Oyer V'Yishi Perek Chav Zayin. We say this every day in Elul. LeDavid Hashem Oyer V'Yishi Mimira. So the midrash says, Oyri is Rosh Hashanah. Hashem is my light. Hashem is my light. Well, that's referring to Rosh Hashanah. Yishi, Hashem is my salvation. Yom Kippurim. It's talking about Yom Kippur. So what does it mean? Hashem Oiri is Rosh Hashanah. Hashem is my light on Rosh Hashanah. Light is always a reference to Chachma. Light is always a reference to insight. Right? And Rosh Hashanah is a day of insight. Rosh Hashanah is a day of fixing our thoughts, of recreating our thoughts, that building our brains, building our Rosh in a way that Tafshin Pevav is going to be a little bit better than Tafshin Pehei. Like this is the day. This is the day that's going to build the groundwork for the blueprint for what's going to be in Tafshin Pevav, and that's why it says on Rosh Hashanah that you have to be so careful about everything you do. It says the person's going to sleep in on Rosh Hashanah, so you're going to have a sleepy year. The person's going to eat bitter foods, is going to have a bitter year. Is going to have a person like, we don't have pickles on Rosh Hashanah, we don't have olives on Rosh Hashanah, we're only sweet. Everything is sweet, just sweetness. Everything is honey coated. Everything is.
I want to have a diabetic year.
just honey, just dvash, and so the everything on Rosh Hashanah is going to affect the rest of the year. So that's why Rabbi Nachman says that it's so critical. It's not enough to just not eat bitter things. You also have to guard your thoughts. That the Rosh Hashanah this is the thought of the year, the thought of the coming year. So this is the most critical. A person has to guard his thoughts, make sure that he has good thoughts, and so the good thoughts that he should be having is that the new and improved me, and so a person has to make sure that his negative thoughts are going to be is going to just to keep away from negative thoughts and keep away to control the thoughts, to not have this feeling that it's just a thought, and to take control, to take control of his thoughts and to put the thoughts into the places that he wants to be. So this is a very basic understanding, a very basic teaching, a very basic premise that a person needs to know that you are in control of your thoughts. Okay, it's not that our thoughts don't just happen to pass through our minds; that we actually control our thoughts. This is something that Rabbi Nachman talks about. That there's a known fact that a person can't think two thoughts at once. So, how do you control your thoughts when you feel like your thoughts are simply taking over? So what do? You force yourself to think about something else. Okay, it's not so hard. In the world of mental health, they call this grounding exercises. That like when you feel like you're just losing it, so just like to try to find 5 blue things in the room, and once if you're thinking about blue things, so then you won't think about the fact that you have to kill yourself, and so and. And so, and you won't think about all your anxieties. You won't think about how sad you are. You won't sad about how much you hate your ex, and because a person doesn't have the ability to think about 2 thoughts at the same time, and this is the Baal HaTanya. So he writes in his book, in the Tanya, that this is what it means. This is what it means when it talks about tshuva. It says, that tshuva is very easy. Tshuva is very, you have to remember this if you're going to Mayanot. That it says tshuva is very easy. What's it mean? It's close to you. It's close to you. So he says, you know why it's close to you? Because the first step of tshuva is your thoughts. And you are in control of your thoughts. A person can never forget that you are in control of your thoughts. You can tell yourself to think what you want to think, and that's going to become your reality. So a person has to first of all be aware of the fact that I'm the boss, that I tell myself what to think. I'm going to not allow my thoughts to control me. I'm going to control my thoughts. And then once I'm aware of this, so then I tell myself what to think. I tell myself what to think, and this is the idea. This is the idea of a mantra. This is the idea of just telling yourself what you want to think. Okay, so if you've been telling yourself whether it's your own idea, whether it's your parents' idea, whether it's your teacher's idea, if you've been telling yourself you are a loser, you don't have what it takes, and so like you've been like poisoning yourself for years and years. So now you have to change the narrative, and now because we know that we are in control of our thoughts, and we have the ability to tell ourselves good thoughts and tell ourselves a better narrative. So to tell ourselves to create a thought process for Tafshan Pevav that is going to actualize itself into a year. It's going to be a year that we want to be. So this is what we're changing our inner dialogue. Like we're changing the way that we feel about ourselves. We're telling ourselves what to think, and this can be done through meditation. This can be done through journaling. This can be done through hisbodedus. That doesn't matter how. There's many ways to get to our inner dialogue, to our inner thoughts. But the knowledge that we're the boss is really the key to everything. This is mamish the key to everything. So the secret of Rosh Hashanah is that we are creating our reality. We are creating the new year through our ability to think, through our ability to create this reality, and to understand that our experience of life is based on this. And so a person can just tell themselves a simple thing like I have a good life. You tell yourself I have a good life, then you'll enjoy life. You tell yourself that you have a bad life, then you'll be suffering your whole life. And it's really it's a crazy thing that the two people could be having the exact same physical experience, and they could be eating the same hamburger, and they could be in the same room and one person is having the time of their life, the other person is mamish suffering, and it's all in their head. It's really all in their head. And a person whose head is in a good place, so they're enjoying life. A person whose head is in a bad place, they're constantly suffering. And it's even more than that. The person that their head is in a good place, they could actually have a wonderful life, despite the fact that they don't have a good physical life. Then they could mamish be jumping for joy from just a little bit of water, and the other guy is mamish like broken, even though he's having the best wine in the world. And it's so not dependent on physical things. And our experience of life, which is like, who doesn't want to have a good life? It's all dependent on our thoughts. It's all dependent. And so first of all, our quality of life is 1,000% dependent on our thoughts. And number two, our thoughts are dependent on us. It's dependent on what we tell ourselves to think. So the thing is, the last point that I want to discuss is the where do our thoughts come from? Where do our thoughts come from? That's the question of questions. So Rabbi Nachman says in many places that our thoughts actually come from somewhere. Our thoughts come from Ratzon. Ratzon is our will. Okay, so our Ratzon is always the source of our thoughts is our will. So if a person is going to have good thoughts, but their will is actually not aligned with their thoughts, so then nothing's going to work, because then it's fake. If you're like, you can think whatever you want, but like if your will isn't actually there, so then the second you stop forcing yourself, so you're going to go back to what you were thinking, right? So how do we actually heal ourselves? The only way to actually heal ourselves is to align with our Ratzon. Okay? And this is really what the essence of Rosh Hashanah is. This is like when we're trying to fix our thoughts. So, in Breslov there's a thing called the Tikkun HaKlali. The Tikkun HaKlali. So Rabbi Nachman writes in Torah, where is this? He writes in Torah Chavtes, in Likutei Haran, that you know what the Tikkun HaKlali is? The Tikkun HaMachshava is the Tikkun HaKlali. That once you've fixed your thoughts, then you have fixed everything else. Everything else will just fall into place. And so how do you fix your thoughts? You fix your thoughts by fixing your Ratzon. And how do you really fix your Ratzon? You fix your Ratzon by tapping into your deepest Ratzon. Or in other words, that a person has different desires, a person has different wills, but there's a source of all your desires. What's called in Kabbalah the Ratzon, the Rava, the Ravin, the will of all wills, and so that we're blessed. We're blessed that we have, Hashem gives us this Ratzon to Ratzon. The deepest will of a Jew is to be close to Hashem. The deepest will of Hashem, the deepest will of a Jew is to align themselves with what Hashem wants in reality, and so simply all a person needs to do to start is to really be true to themselves, is really to dig deep into who they are, and there they will find that, hey, everything I was doing the whole year, it wasn't really me. It wasn't really true. I wasn't really being true to myself. That really, 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 I just want to be close to Hashem. Really, 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 I want to follow mitzvahs. Really, 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 I want to be a better person. And simply digging into this deeper part of who we are, so that's what reveals our deepest Ratzon, that we want to be better people, we want to be holy people, we realize that everything that we've been until now has been fake. Everything we've been until now has been like it's been a costume. And these moments of truth that we're able to tap into this inner Ratzon, so that is how we affect our machshava in a real way. So I bless us all that this Rosh Hashanah we should be able to have this amazing light. We should feel the light of Oiris of Rosh Hashanah, and that just to open ourselves up for Hashem to enlighten us, open ourselves up for Hashem to remind us of who we really are, open ourselves up to remind us of that our deepest Ratzon is really to be close to Him, and from that we're going to bring down holy thoughts and holy plans, and really write ourselves a new narrative of what Tafshin Pevav is going to be, what this next coming year is going to be, to write a new script we're the heroes of this new narrative, and with a very happy ending, with hatlachas, and this is the time. The Rosh Hashanah is the day that we're actually creating how successful our year is going to be, and it's all up to us. And so we should take control of Rosh Hashanah, take control of our thoughts, make sure that our heads are in the right place, our heads are in an amazing place. Our heads know how far we can get, and how much we really want to be in this better place. And B'ezrat Hashem, through the tikkun hamachshava, through the fixing of our thoughts, this will be the tikkun haklali, and this will be a complete rectification for ourselves and for our chesima teva, for a sweet year, for everybody, as individuals, as a nation. B'ezrat Hashem, with Geula, B'ezrat Hashem, l'chaim.